Folks, this part of the slides I'm going to be going over for you is about sources, using sources correctly. Make sure you watch this. Make sure you listen to me on this. There is going to be an assignment that I ask you to do that is going to come off this. So please know that this is something that's very important for the informative speech and the persuasive speech. It's one of the very, very few things I need to make sure you get and understand very solidly well in order to make sure that we only need to do 2 more speeches to get you through the class. So with that, sources. The biggest thing that I can tell you early on is I need you to cite your sources in APA format. Now, if you don't know how to cite sources in APA format, what I would recommend doing is if you go to the phoenixcollege.edu webpage, and at the top you'll see a click for the library. On the left, once you click on the library page, you're going to see an Ask a Librarian 24/7 chat that is available for you. And so if you have a source, say it's a website, because it's incredibly hard in APA format to cite a website, what I would recommend doing is chatting with the Ask a Librarian about how to do some of those things. Or you can email a librarian your source and ask for some assistance in what you can do to better access those resources. In addition to that, librarians are going to be on staff and available for you virtually. If you check some resources, I'll post the some resources that were made available to me in the announcements area for financial aid, dual enrollment, career services, tons and tons of stuff. But in that, there's also going to be the 24/7 Ask a Librarian chat that's made available for you as well. So do use those sources. They are there for you. They will help you make sure you cite things exactly the way I need to see them, so you can get full credit for those in the informative speech as well as the persuasive speech. What I want you to do is prepare for your library visit. So one of the things I want you to try to do is avoid just Googling things, because Google is not the best place in the world to find information. And especially when you're trying to do it in a space where you're doing research, where you're going to become the expert on a topic. Anybody can Google anything. What you need to practice doing, and part of why this assignment is this way, is because I want to see you practice finding high quality resources. So to do that, I want you to get on the 24/7 library chat. And again, if you go to that website, the library website that I described in the slide before, you're going to see in that area something that says databases. Databases are a great thing that you can use to try to find some resources in order to make sure that you're using a quality academic resource. That's also going to be a lot easier to cite. If you try to use something on CNN.com, usually CNN.com, especially if they're finding something that's really good or really relevant, is citing something else to begin with. The reason why you can't use Wikipedia is because Wikipedia cites something else. Now, you might be able to use something Wikipedia cites at the very bottom of a Wikipedia article, but you want to chat with that librarian to make sure that that is a solid site. Also, you're going to want to use your crap detector. I'm going to go over crap detector a little bit more when it's time to go over the assignment as far as what I'm going to need to see or find. Another thing you're going to need to consider is what is important or what is of value. So remember, the less jazzy or snazzy a website is, the less jazzy or snazzy a journal article is, generally speaking, the better it is. The most high quality research you can do can be academic journals. And if you've ever read an academic journal, it's not a lot of fun to look at, but that's part of what makes it such a high quality resource. And so when you talk with a librarian, tell them about what your topic is and what you're hoping to deliver a speech on, and they can help steer you to some really high quality resources rather than you doing this by yourself. So no, don't do this by yourself. Please log on to the 24/7 chat, work with a librarian for maybe an hour or so. There's going to be a ton of folks that are available, and find at least 2 sources that you can cite in APA format. So what was the value of the thing? And then also, your research is also going to help you get a sense of what are just the 3 things that you're going to tell us about. I whittled down the time requirement for this to, I think, just 5 or 6 minutes. It had been 6 to 8, but I understand uploading those videos is going to be a little bit more of a challenge. So make sure you get ready ahead of time. And some of the things you can do is maybe look through some of those databases and then look in the prepare for library a visit assignment on the crap detector, which I'll go over in more detail about things that I'm looking for that show you what is a high quality citation and what is not. Now, in your annotated bibliography, what I need is a minimum of 2 sources. A minimum of 2. That's all you got to have is 2. But in it, I need you to tell me like a summary of what this source is. What is this source? How does it help you with your speech? How does it help you inform us about this speech? Like, what does that do for us as an audience, and why did you feel like it was a good source? Again, that CRAAPP detector gives a great justification. So if you go down the list on the annotated bibliography and you answer the CRAAP questions, which again, I'm going to get to at the end for you, and it's also in the assignment, the library research assignment. It can help you with that. If you need assistance with how to write an annotated bibliography, if you go to this OWL Purdue example annotation, that will help you get a sense of what I need to see and how to put that in the correct order. So again, 2 sources. I need a summary of what is this thing and why did you pick this thing. So what is this in this article? What information does it give us? And then why did you choose it? And then I would just go down a few of those different CRAAPP detector lines to give me a justification of why you picked what you chose. And that's what I need for that area. Next thing we're going to go over is, what are we going to cite? Do we cite everything we find, or even that we maybe choose to list as a resource? No, not necessarily. I was informed by a few books, and though I don't cite every big thought or idea that I got out of that, I still do list the book in general as far as a way to help you understand stuff, right? So what you want to cite for sure is like direct quotes, paraphrased information that is directly influenced by the citation. And there is no right or wrong number about how many resources to use and cite. Given that I've gone to grad school, I tend to go do a lot of resources because I feel like the more resources you have, the better the argument is, in my opinion. But really, it's kind of going to be up to you and the librarian that you choose to work with in order to make sure that you're getting the information, and then also what information are you pulling out of the article, of the journal, of the database, of the newspaper report, whatever. What are you going to pull out of that, and what are you going to cite? So really with that is trying to make sure that it's relevant, that it's applicable, that it's supports your speech, and gives us a sense of what is this thing, how does it work, or what does it do. So remember, the purpose of this speech is to inform us, let us know more about this thing or idea. So what does that source do to help push our knowledge or idea of that subject? That's what we're looking for. All right, so for your annotated bibliography, I need to see at least 2 sources listed. So I need those 2 sources, and I need it specifically in APA format. Again, this is one of the things you're going to want to talk to when you talk to your librarian on the 24/7 talk to a librarian chat. Help me find some sources, make sure that I cite these sources correctly in the APA format. They may guide you to some tools like EasyBib. They might show you how to do some hacks that I found out over time, where if you go to Google Scholar, not Google Scholar, there's a set of quotes, and the quotes show you how to cite the thing in APA format really well. So again, I need the APA citation of at least 2 sources. I need a small summary. What is this thing, and what is this thing talking about, right? So what is the information you gleaned here? How gleaned means got out of this. How does the information help you with your informative speech, inform your audience on this topic? Then the last thing I need you to do is, why did you pick it? One of the things I would highly recommend is looking at the CRAAPP detector. Again, I'm going to put a slide of that in here for you so you have a sense of what that looks like. And there's a few different questions that you can choose to answer there that's going to give you a justification of why you included this resource in your informative speech and then later on again in your persuasive speech. And if you need assistance on how to write an annotated bibliography, Owl Purdue gives an example of an annotation for you, and will also help you make sure that you get that in there in the correct way. We're going to look at what do we cite? What are we going to cite, and what do I need to see? Do you cite everything you find and everything you list in your annotated bibliography? Well, if you're going to use it as a form of a resource, then at the end, you'll put it in your bibliography. Now, as far as an in-text citation, you're only going to cite statistics you directly pulled. So that means throughout your speech, I need to hear, according to an article in the New York Times, 48% of all adults, blah, 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 right? So if there's a stat, you need an in-text APA citation of that source. You can see some on the example speech that I gave you with my slides. Again, you're not going to need slides because we're not going to be worrying about slides. But for me, I have those slides, and that's what it looked like. So when I got to that information in that area, I would include that information in that slide to make sure that I was covering that area correctly for you. So what to choose and what's the right number, it's really up to you and kind of between you and your librarian as far as like what all you choose to use as research. But know that if you're going to be talking about a direct piece of information or something that you're paraphrasing in your own words that's directly from a piece of information, I need you to cite that. Now, as far as where you want to cite, you need to do it within the middle of your speech. That is incredibly important. So whenever you're citing a part of information that you're using that makes you the expert about this topic, I need you to say, according to, in the journal of blah, 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 I heard blah, 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 according to research done by the New England Journal of Medicine. Then you say your statistic. I need that in the middle of your speech. To make sure that you're citing your information correctly and you're giving me as well as your audience proof that you see and understand the different parts of things. You also need to make sure that that full bibliography is in your comm plan, because those are the two places I need to see it. Now, I understand the slide says internal, front, and combo. I need it internal, and I need it in your comm plan specifically. The front and combo part was part of this when this used to be an assignment where there had to be slides with it. So I need it. You need you to use the two different sources at the very least in your informative speech, in your persuasive speech, and I need your annotated bibliography in the comm plan so I know what you're referencing. So when I watch your speech, I can get a sense of where you're going and what you're talking about and give you the correct feedback on it. Make sense? I think so. If not, you can always email me and ask me questions. I don't know what you don't know. All right, in this area, I'm going to go over the assignment description for you, what I need to see you and your librarian talk about. So I'm going to go over that in the next slide area. Then I'm going to go over the speech rubric in detail so you have a sense of what I'm needing to see. There is going to be some things in the rubric that are no longer there, so make sure you're watching the videos to get a sense of what I need to see. And then the last one is going to be going over the comm plan in detail with you with me having the box, talking over the rubric and everything, so you have a sense of what I need to see from you. All right, so watch this, take notes on this, and if you need to go back and listen to this to get a sense of what I'm needing to see or hear from you, make sure you're doing that too, okay? You maybe want to make notes about these things so you can address all these things, but generally speaking, I'm going to be guiding you to where the stuff is in Canvas, so go to those areas and make sure you're getting these things in for me. All right, Library Research Day. Tell me about a digital resource you found that helps support your speech. Some sources may include newspapers, magazines, or journals. And here in detail is that CRAP test. The first C stands for currency. How timely is this information? When was the information published or posted? Was it revised? Was it updated? Generally speaking, I want to see something within the last 10 years, unless you're doing something about the cotton gin that is invented in 18 something, then that would make more sense, but generally speaking, within the last 10 years. The next is R, relevant. How important was the information for your needs? Did it relate to your topic? Was it for us as an audience? Was it at a level that we could understand or process? So again, relevance. Is it relevant to you and your topic? Next, authority. Who was the source of this information? Generally speaking, if you're going to be citing something, I need to know who the author is, because the author gives us a sense of how credible the information is. Who is the publisher? Who is the source? If someone paid for this research, who is the sponsor? What were the author's credentials and organization affiliations? Like, where did they come from? Like, is it somebody just blogging something? Or is this a New York Times writer, right? Is the author qualified to write on the topic, or did they find good research when they reported on a topic? The next A is going to be on accuracy. How reliable, how truthful, or how correct was the content? Where does this information come from? Is it supported by evidence? Are you reporting on a reporting about a reporting? Which wouldn't make any sense, right? Because sometimes, like, the NPR will post something that's something from the New England Journal of Medicine. So why would you talk about a topic that's talking about a topic when you can go directly to the topic where the information came from? Sometimes objects are 4 things removed. So I can see, like, BuzzFeed will share something from the Atlantic that came from an article from the New York Times, right? So go to that first New York Times article and get the information from that. Or if they're talking about research that was done, like, if there was a link to that research in that article, then go to the link and talk about the link from that research in your article. How has the information been reviewed or refereed? Like, who looked at this to make sure this was fair or credible? Who all agreed that this was in fact true? And then lastly, purpose. What was the reason that the information exists? What was the purpose of the information? Was it to inform? Was it to teach? Was it to sell? If it's to sell, that's usually not a great place to find resources. Is it used to entertain? Again, maybe not the best place to find resources. Was it used to persuade? Can be, depending on our sources or what we're looking to find. So again, that's the crap detector. Include in the documentation the author, the title, the publication title, the date of publication, and I definitely need to see it in APA format. The annotation should be about a paragraph in length, at least 5 sentences long, and I give you a sample annotation in there. You can also use whatever you turn in for Library Research Day in your comm plan. So good news here, right? We're, again, chipping away at this big thing with all the little pieces of things that you have. You don't need the 3 sources. You really just need the 2. And for more online resources, I also give you a link to the crap test in there. An example of full point submissions are listed below that gave good citations for what they're going to be talking about. So that is all there for you to see and use. Part 1 of the speech rubric. First one is, I want this to be a listener-centered speech. So how do you make this speech not about just you, not about just the topic? I want it to be about the audience and the topic, and how the audience and the topic go together, and how they're going to be better from learning about this information. So I want to make sure in strategy actions, you see the speech is adapted for this in particular audience. I need to see all your introduction material. So I need to see that attention getter. That attention getter does need to be focused on the topic in some way or relate to that topic some way. So again, if you're using a quote, how does it relate to our topic? I want to see your introduction introduced and narrowed to your thesis. So what is the single idea that you're trying to get across in your thesis statement to us as listeners? And again, how do you include that audience? How do you make it an audience-centered thesis statement? I need a clear preview of main points. We're going to be talking about how you bake bread with ingredients, steps, and then how to store it. I don't know, like whatever, right? Those are the 3 things that you're going to have. I want to see initial audience connection is done. That's your common ground area. Told your audience why this is relevant and then why they want to keep listening to this. I need to hear about your credibility. What is your credibility? Tell me about your research. Tell me about your time in making an excellent comm plan. Tell us about your time in practicing before you did your speech. I also need to see transitions. Remember, with the transitions, you need to take a little bit of the idea before and a little bit of the idea that's upcoming, and tell us about what that is and how that's going to look and how that's going to work. In the body, I need to see two intake, or I need you to verbally cite at least two research sources in a meaningful way. Not so just you can say according to an article about the New York Times, and according to an article written by Bobby McGee in 1922. He stated that, you see how meaningful that was and how deep that was and how obvious I know my source is? That's what I'm looking for there. I need to see that you have a transition into your conclusion, so I need a sense that you're going to be starting your transition. I need you to review your thesis, and again, make sure your audience is included in that thesis statement. I need you to review all of your main points. I also need you to have a meaningful takeaway proposed for us. Now, meaningful takeaway is, now that you know about blah, you can make better decisions about whatever, right? That's the meaningful takeaway. You don't want to persuade them to do something. You want to talk about what can they use with this information. Then I also need to see a clincher. Again, clincher, what type of clincher you're using. Is it a quote? Is it a question? Is it a restatement of a statistic that you brought up earlier that affects us in some way, right? I do not need to see any visuals other than you. So do not worry about support actions and visuals used well. I do want to see some audience engagement. I need some we stuff. I need you to talk about maybe speeches that we've heard when we were in class together. Remember, you're not talking to me, you're talking to us. And I want to see that we're talking to us. You don't need to dress nicely. If you do dress nicely, it will help you feel more confident, but that's not important. I also want to see you looking at the screen, not looking at your notes, and making eye contact with us. Don't just look at us too. Give us some facial expressions, make it interesting to look at you. Make sure you're using some gestures. Again, I also want this in a conversational delivery tone. I want you to change your vocalics. I want you to be interesting. I want to see some gestures that are intentional and on point for specific reasons. And lastly, I'm looking for a 5 to 6 minute time limit. That's the things that I am needing to see according to the rubric for this speech. Now, for what I'm looking for in your comm plan is, again, I need you to answer questions 1 through 8. And I need you to do the template for me, okay? So I need you to answer question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, question 5, question 6, question 7, question 8, all those things, as well as do the comm plan template. Question number 1, listener-centered thesis. Today I am going to tell you about why you can make delicious banana bread at home, that you can make at home with minimal and fresh ingredients, so you too can enjoy this amazing, delicious treat. Right? You see how the audience is a big part of what's being done there. The topic is going to connect with your audience or be interesting in your audience because, so say if you're doing a speech on Army Reserves, you can be more informed about the Army Reserves for any family or friends that are interested in that thing, right? So again, make it something that they can relate to or show them how they can use this information in the future someday. How are you planning on establishing your credibility more? What you'll want to say is you can talk about how you are interested in the topic, so why you like this and why this is going to help you in the future. Because if you're not an authority, because this is going to help you some way in the future, you're going to be an authority, right? Why you're capable of informing others about the topic. Obviously, this is you talking about your research. Additional ways you'll build and maintain your ethos throughout the speech is, again, maybe referencing extra research or talking about your personal experience with the topic and how you've grown or how you've gotten better with it. You'll see what this looks like when I do my speech for you. In full sentence format, so again, not just ideas, I need the full sentence idea of what your 3 topics are going to be. So the first one, if we're using the banana bread example, would be ingredients you need to make banana bread. And, well, it would be the ingredients you need to get together to make banana bread, period. Number 2 would be how to follow steps of the recipe to make sure you make a high quality banana bread. And then step 3 could be how to store your banana bread so it stays healthy and fresh as long as possible. Okay. Number 5, here's what I'm going to do to ensure that these main points are the same ones that people hear during my speech. So you can keep the ones that will apply or delete the ones that will not apply. Just know that you need to keep or delete these things, because if you're going to do all these things, which you're not going to do all these things, because the second one is have a slideshow, you're not going to do that one. So at the very least, maybe you'll just verbally preview the main points, or you're going to use clear transitions moving from point to point in the speech body. Now that my speakers have learned about this topic, here's the future-oriented takeaway that I'm going to be giving my listeners. Again, so now that you know more about how to make banana bread, you can become the banana bread master in your household with this information. I need your personal measurable goal for this speech, what I really want to see improving. And then I need your annotated bibliography. Remember, for your annotated bibliography, I don't just need your APA citation. I need a summary of what this is and why you chose this topic in particular. And last but not least, I need your outline template, right? What is your attention getter and type? I need to see that. Remember, when you say things, start with your attention getter with the words of the attention getter. If you're going to start with an attention getter that's a quote, start with the words of the quote and then say according to blah, 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 blah. If you're using a quote as a clincher, start with the who said it and then end with the quote, because it's just more final. It has more of a sense of finality to it. Common ground, what is the audience going to get out of listening to this speech? Why are they going to benefit from hearing about this? Credibility, again, it's going to be talking about your research and talking about your time in speechcraft, or your time in making sure that you made sure that you could talk about this in a credible manner. State thesis, again, with your thesis, you need to tell us what your topic is and why it's going to be of benefit for the audience to hear about this topic. I need you to preview your main points. Today I'm going to talk to you about A, B, and C. I need a transition that connects to at least one of those like 3 main point ideas and gets us ready for main point number 1. Main point number 1 was going to have like however many topics that it has to it. Remember, in your body, I need to hear you verbally say your in-text citation according to the New York Times article in 1965 written by Javon Brown. Blah, right? So I need 2 of those in your body. Make sure I get a transition from point 1 to 2, from 2 to 3, and transition from point 3 into your conclusion as well. Then I need you to restate your thesis. Remember to include your audience in that thesis. I need to restate your main points, and then I need to hear you say a clincher of a type, and then make sure you end the clincher with a sense of finality so I know you are done. Just like I am right now. Thank you for listening, and if you need to listen to this a couple more times, you can use the settings on YouTube to listen to it a lot faster, and maybe that'll make a big difference for you. But thank you for being in lecture today, and start on your library assignments, start on your comm plans, so we can look forward to getting this next speech done. Thank you so much. Y'all are doing great. I appreciate you being here and doing your best.